The rain fell in sheets that night, turning the parking garage into a labyrinth of shadows and echoing footsteps. Victoria Chen had built an empire from nothing, a tech company worth billions, her face on magazine covers, her name synonymous with innovation and ruthless ambition. But none of that mattered now as she lay crumpled against the concrete wall, pain radiating through her chest, her perfectly manicured fingers clutching her phone with weakening strength. The mugger had taken her purse, her jewelry, everything, except the fear that now consumed her. And as darkness crept into the edges of her vision, she heard footsteps approaching and whispered words she never thought would leave her lips. "Please, don't hurt me!" But the man who knelt beside her wasn't there to take anything more. He was there to give everything he had. Marcus Webb had been working the night shift at the hospital laundry for 3 years, ever since his wife died and left him alone with their 6-year-old daughter, Emma. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid the bills and let him be home when Emma got off the school bus. Tonight, he'd stayed late to cover for a sick coworker, and his rusted Honda was one of only 3 cars left on the 4th level of the parking structure. He almost didn't hear her, the soft, desperate plea barely audible over the rain drumming against metal and concrete. But Marcus had learned to listen for the quiet sounds. Emma had been nearly silent in the months after her mother's death, and he'd trained himself to hear what wasn't being said, to notice what others missed. "Ma'am?" He approached slowly, hands visible, voice gentle. "I'm not going to hurt you. My name is Marcus. Can you tell me what happened?" Victoria's eyes, wide with terror, focused on him, taking in his worn jacket, his maintenance worker's badge, the gentleness in his weathered face. "My chest," she managed, her voice breaking. "Can't." "Breathe right." Marcus's mind raced through the basic first aid training the hospital required. Heart attack, maybe, or the trauma from the assault. Either way, she needed help fast. He pulled out his phone, his fingers shaking slightly as he dialed 911. But when he tried to give the location, his phone crackled and died, the battery finally giving up after 2 years of meaning to replace it. "Damn it," he muttered, then looked at Victoria. "Where's your phone?" He took it. Took everything. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the rain. "I'm going to die here, aren't I? Alone in a parking garage like some—" She couldn't finish, a sob cutting off her words. "No." Marcus's voice was firm, the same tone he used when Emma woke from nightmares. "No, you're not going to die, and you're definitely not alone." He shrugged off his jacket and carefully placed it over her, then sat down beside her on the cold, wet concrete. "I'm staying right here with you until help comes." "You don't understand," Victoria gasped. "No one knows I'm here." "I was working late. Everyone else left hours ago. My security detail thinks I'm in my office." "No one's coming!" Marcus looked at the distance to his car, then back at Victoria. She was pale, shaking, her breathing shallow and rapid. Moving her could kill her. Leaving her could kill her. But his car had a charger, and he could call for help. "I need you to listen to me very carefully," he said, taking her hand. "I'm going to run to my car and call 911 from there. It'll take me maybe 90 seconds, 2 minutes max. Can you hold on for 2 minutes?" "No!" Her grip on his hand tightened with surprising strength. "Please don't leave me. I'm so scared. I don't want to die alone. I don't—" Another wave of pain cut through her words, and she doubled over. Marcus had a choice. The logical choice was clear. Get to the car, call for help, save her life. But as he looked into her terrified eyes, he saw something beyond the CEO, beyond the expensive clothes now ruined by rain and blood. He saw what he'd seen in Emma's eyes that first year, pure primal fear of abandonment. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay, I'm not leaving. We'll figure something else out." For the next 20 minutes, Marcus stayed beside Victoria, talking to her, about Emma, about his wife, about the small moments that made life worth living. He told her about Emma's obsession with building fairy houses in their tiny backyard, about the way his wife used to sing off-key while cooking, about the time he'd accidentally dyed all their laundry pink, and they'd worn it anyway because they couldn't afford to replace everything. And slowly, Victoria began to talk too. Between gasps of pain and fear, she told him about the grandmother who'd raised her in a one-bedroom apartment, teaching her that success meant never showing weakness. She told him about the 60-hour work weeks, the empire she'd built brick by brick, and the crushing loneliness of being surrounded by employees and advisors, but having no one to call in an emergency. She told him about the daughter she'd given up for adoption at 19, before the company, before the success, a secret she'd never shared with anyone. "I thought I was building something that mattered," she whispered. "But I'm 43 years old, and if I die tonight, who would even miss me? Who would really care?" "I would," Marcus said simply. "And I just met you 20 minutes ago. So I'm guessing there are a lot more people than you think." Just then, a car turned into the garage level, its headlights sweeping across them. Marcus leaped to his feet, waving his arms and shouting. The security guard who'd been making his rounds stopped, and within minutes, the parking garage filled with sirens and lights and paramedics. As they loaded Victoria onto a stretcher, she grabbed Marcus's hand one more time. "You stayed," she said, wonder in her voice. "You had no reason to stay, but you did." "Everyone needs someone to stay," Marcus replied, "especially when they're scared." 3 months later, Marcus was walking Emma home from school when a sleek black car pulled up beside them. Victoria stepped out, looking healthier than that night, but somehow softer too. "Mr. Webb," she said, smiling, "I've been looking for you." She'd come to tell him that she'd found her daughter, the one she'd given up 25 years ago. The heart attack had been a wake-up call, literally and figuratively. She'd restructured her entire life, started actually living instead of just succeeding. "But more than that," she said, kneeling down to Emma's level. "I wanted to thank your dad properly. He saved my life that night, but not the way you might think. He reminded me what it means to be human." She stood, handing Marcus an envelope. Inside was a check, enough to cover Emma's college fund and then some. But more than that, there was a job offer, Director of Human Services for her company, a newly created position focused on employee welfare and community outreach. "I don't need someone with an MBA," Victoria explained. "I need someone who knows how to stay when things get hard. Someone who understands that kindness isn't a weakness. It's the whole point." Marcus looked at Emma, then back at Victoria. "I'm not looking for a reward for being a decent person." "I know," Victoria said. "That's exactly why I want you on my team." That night, as Marcus tucked Emma into bed, she asked him about the lady who'd visited them. He thought about the parking garage, the rain, the choice he'd made to stay. "Sometimes," he told his daughter, "the most important thing we can do is just be there for someone who's scared. It doesn't cost anything except our time, and it can mean everything." Emma nodded sleepily. "Like you do for me." "Like I do for you," Marcus agreed, kissing her forehead. "Always." Outside, the rain had started again, but Marcus didn't hear it as a threat anymore. He heard it as a reminder that on the worst nights, when everything seems lost, sometimes all it takes is one person willing to kneel down in the storm and refuse to leave. One person who chooses kindness over convenience, presence over self-preservation. One person who understands that we're all just scared sometimes, and the greatest gift we can give each other is the simple promise: you're not alone. I'm staying, and in a world that often feels too big, too fast, too cold, maybe that's the revolution we really need, not empires built on ambition, but moments built on humanity. One parking garage, one rainy night, one choice to stay at a time.